When we talk about the greatest video game that has been ever made, our natural instinct would instantly kick in and suggest games that have been released lately or other modern games in the not so distant past because of how well made these games are, especially on the visual and narrative spectrum. But in order for us to pinpoint the greatest game of all time, we have to look beyond the conventional benchmarks and instead immerse ourselves in the game that we believe is the best of the pack to really feel its greatness firsthand. And with that in mind, the game that many considered as one of the greatest games of all time has quite figuratively and literally linked me to the past. The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past was released in 1991 in Japan and 1992 on the Western shores. But 30 years later, it still remains one of the most talked about retro games to this day, and it never lost its magical touch even one bit, as it finds its way to be played by the loyal fans of the franchise and equally enjoyed by the new generation of players around the world. A Link to the Past is the third installment of the franchise, but actually, it served as the prequel of the first two Zelda games. The original Zelda game was released back in '86 for Famicom and has racked up over 6.5 million copies worldwide. It has been considered by many as one of the frontrunners that laid the foundation of the modern action RPG genre and has set the tone for its predecessors by introducing Zelda's hallmarks such as the multi-layered dungeons and secret passages, the hack-and-slash mechanic, the puzzle-solving aspect, and other staple exploratory elements. Following the success of The Legend of Zelda, its sequel, The Adventure of Link, tried to switch things up by deviating from the top-down perspective and instead shifted to a side-scrolling 2D platformer look while going all in on its RPG facet by allowing Link to earn XP points and cast spells on the side. The significant upgrades were pretty revolutionary to say the least at that point. But in terms of sales, Zelda 2 actually sold over 2 million copies fewer than Zelda 1. Though this slight setback didn't derail the franchise momentum, this has led the creators back to the drawing board and come up with something fresh heading to the release of the next Zelda game. With both the financial and gameplay reception considered, the creators and its developers have reverted back to its old ways by adapting the top-down perspective view of the primordial game of the series and evolving it further to create an entirely new yet familiar Zelda game that resonated to its fans and loyal players. With the first Zelda game serving as its prototype, A Link to the Past came out firing on all cylinders, featuring amplified game elements from its vibrant graphics, far more advanced control system, all the way to the depth of its overall gameplay and richness of its story arc. Familiar faces such as Link and Princess Zelda greet you from the prologue, and the story pretty much revolves around saving the realm of Hyrule from the clutches of the staple protagonist of the franchise, Aghanim and Ganon. While recurring characters come and go, it was in the Link to the Past where the iconic equipment and weapons of Link came to life and was formally introduced, and this includes Link's signature weapon, the Master Sword. Freedom of movement was expanded, as you can now move diagonally on top of moving toward the 4 basic directions. Same thing applies to the combat system, as the dashing maneuver is now allowed through the use of Pegasus boots, and swing attacks can also be triggered to add more variation to its hack-and-slash system. The already expansive map of the original Zelda was further extended to a sprawling world filled with diverse creatures that stretch from green fields, forests, deserts, rivers, and lakes, in which all these places also contain caves, dungeons, underground passages, secret labyrinths, and mysterious pathways to create an immersive, open-ended adventure that makes it hard for the player to conquer in just one sitting. The AIs in this game were also smarter than the previous 2 installments. In boss battles, were extremely challenging, adding another layer of difficulty on top of solving its puzzle-riddled dungeons for increased replayability. And lastly, a Zelda game is incomplete without its legendary tunes blaring behind the scenes. In Koji Kondo showcased his musical mastery once again in The Link to the Past by evoking the appropriate emotions whenever you step into a different visual landscape, such as the feeling of summer warmth as you meander inside Kakariko Village, or injecting that ominous vibe as you battle your way out inside the dungeons or lost ancient ruins. Based on the numerous art that I clocked in, A Link to the Past was actually a link to the future with all the significant strides and barriers that it broke through, given how limited technology was when it first existed. And ultimately, it's more than just a video game, but rather it's an experience that you have to personally feel and immerse yourself with to fully capture its entirety.